I learned pretty early in life that my vulnerability, my tears, and my sensitivities did not matter. They were not to be seen, and when seen, not to be tolerated. I had responsibilities to my parents, to my siblings, and to my community, so there was no space for my anxieties, no space for my fears or any weaknesses. So for the first 20 years of my life, I carried everyone's pain but mine. I saw everyone else but myself. I was the intuitive, mature kid. So I did whatever it is I was expected to do, and when things went wrong, I always found a way. Everywhere I went, I became the mediator, the leader, the protector, the advisor, the one you could always count on to say something when everyone else couldn't, to show up when no one else would. I became the dutiful daughter, the nurturing sister, the perfect student, and the strong friend. But in all those years, while people called me kind, loving, giving, strong, reliable, while they dumped all their struggles on me, while I fixed and glued things, my heart was deeply broken. I was distraught, afraid, hypervigilant, and incredibly lonely. It felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I deeply needed help. But every time I turned around to ask for it, it looked like everyone else was struggling so much, and then I was the one thing, I was the one person they were counting on to keep it together. So I did, until it almost killed me. One thing that a lot of strong people have in common, whether consciously or unconsciously, is the belief that our worth is tied to how useful we are to other people. Often because from a very vulnerable age, you've been dealing with heavy stuff. You've had to stifle or dismiss your own emotions in order to care for other people, and you were most likely praised for it too. So you begin to seek approval. So attach your sense of self to how needed you are, to how much you can hold without falling apart. You may even begin to find a sense of pride in your old soul, wise, intellectual, spiritual abilities, wrongly accepting the fulfillment of other people's needs to be your role in every relationship. Now, this puts you in a terrible, terrible spot because the corresponding lack of boundaries makes you a magnet for people who are looking for an emotional crutch. When someone sees you as a dumping ground, when someone sees you as a well that never runs dry, the human element is removed. You become an it, a means to an end. That's why it feels like you're always giving, sticking your neck out for other people. But when you're in crisis, you feel bereft. It feels like there's no one there to give you the same level of support, the same level of attention you give to others. A few years ago, I started telling people in my life, if you put me on a pedestal, I'll fall on you. The strong friend or the strong one rhetoric thrives on the idea that you have life all together, that you have it all figured out, or that you're somehow special, different, and maybe you are special and different. But that should not be used to other you. And if you're dealing with people who lack comprehension, they might even believe that you have no emotions or that you're not as sensitive as the rest, which is so ridiculous because at the core of the strength that they are so drawn to, that they are so enamored by, is a profound and often overdeveloped sense of empathy. You take on so much because you feel so much. In an ideal world, that sensitivity, that emotional depth should be protected, should be preserved, should be handled with care. But because we're hurting so much and there's just so much shit happening all around us, it's often taken advantage of. So it's your duty to protect yourself by A, realizing that you're not born to carry pain. It's not your job. And B, knowing that your heart, your big heart, is also made for love, for joy, for peace, for play, for foolishness, for fun. So start falling on people, shatter their ideas of you, reclaim your humanity, fall apart. I can never forget the uproar, the dramatics that happened in my life when I stopped being selfless, dutiful, and perfect. When I started talking back, walking away, when I leaned into my anger, when I started screaming at people, when I refused to earn love, when I refused to prove my reason for being. It was chaotic, pure chaos. But for the first time in years, I could breathe easy. At some point in my people-pleasing days, I realized that the only reason it felt like everyone around me was struggling and having such a tough time was because people had good times outside of me, but would come and find me when things went awry. They had their friendship groups, they had their hangout groups for lightness and softness, for fun, but I was the lady, the iron lady of doom and gloom, the all-knowing, all-seeing oracle. How fucking unfortunate. So once I decided to build up my depleted self-esteem, to erect boundaries, really strong ones. I started entertaining only friendships and interactions where I could be a three-dimensional being, where I could be silly, funny, frail, emotional, childish, intellectual, serious, heavy, crazy without being labeled, where I could come undone, where I could make mistakes without being graded, where I could be open, where I could be giving, where I could bear myself without being taken advantage of. You know, I was 15 the first time someone who wasn't me stood up for me. She was my setmate, we weren't close, but I was being bullied and harassed again. So she put herself on the line and publicly challenged and raged at my bullies. It was the first time in my entire life someone had protected me without my asking and without needing anything from me. It was the first time in my life I felt like someone was seeing me, not as a thing, not as an idea, but as a person. To this day, I still thank my best friend for that day because she planted a seed in me, a seed that I will eventually begin to water. That was the day I began to entertain the idea, the very radical idea, that I deserve to be protected, to be fought for and spoken for, just like everyone else. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure. My name is Pearl, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh my gosh! Oh my god! I've been trying, really trying, baby.